with multiple disabilities. So in my work, I combine my expertise with my lived experience. With me is Shawn Henry. Shawn is the director of the Web Accessibility Initiative at the World Wide Web Consortium. Welcome, Shawn. It's a pleasure to see you again. I was just thinking earlier, I think we first met, way back when we were working on HFES 200, yep, the software accessibility standards. That was like 20 some odd years ago. So it's great to see you again. Pleasure to be able to talk to you again.
Yeah, great to talk to you about standards from 25 years ago and 25 years later.
Yeah, I mean, this is great. So, as I said earlier, you're the director of the Accessibility Initiative at WAI. That pretty much tells me you're working with WCAG. So, tell me, what is the role of WCAG in achieving accessibility?
Yeah, that's really important to think about the role in achieving accessibility. And what it's not is the end-all, be-all. Right. So, WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, they're a very important tool. They can provide a benchmark, a baseline for accessibility around the world. But what's important to know is that they're a tool, they're not the end goal, right? So the end goal is that an accessible user experience. So accessibility is about people, it's not about just meeting standards. As you know, and many others know, that there's a lot of focus on meeting the standards. But what's important is that we shift the focus, make sure the focus is really on user-centered accessibility, and the standards is just one tool. So that role, as you know, is very important.
So the way I like to phrase that, WCAG is a floor, not a ceiling, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I've been hearing quite a bit lately about WCAG 3, WCAG Silver, WCAG whatever. What's going on? How is this going to change in terms of what we know in WCAG 2?
Yeah. So a lot of things are going to be the same. I mean, fundamentally, what people with disabilities needs hasn't changed, right? Right. And so the fundamental things are going to be very similar. But the rest of it is very different. So it's a very different approach. It's very different structure. It's very user needs based. So just as, WCAG in the past, we've said, right, it's not a magic wand. It doesn't tell you how to do it. It's not an intro. This is going to help bridge a little bit more between what's in the standard and what we now, for WCAG 2, we provide externally. So we have the education materials, we have the intro materials, we have that kind of separate. And with WCAG 3, that's going to come together more. So definitely much more user needs based approach. And then the other really cool thing is that, one of the primary goals of this is to better integrate the needs of people with cognitive disabilities. So that was something that, because of the structure and the way the requirements for WCAG 2, as you know, we've talked about this, right? Right. We weren't able to include cognitive issues in the same way. We do have supplemental guidance for cognitive issues for WCAG 2, so it is covered, but not directly in WCAG 2. So we're looking at covering that directly in WCAG 3. So we'll have that. And if you want to, for those who want to learn more, we just did a session at the Inclusive Design 24 conference, and that material is online. So you can go from the W3C WAI YouTube channel, and there's a playlist of presentations, and in there is that presentation just from a couple weeks ago, and we talk a lot more about the differences in WCAG 3. And then the final thing I want to share, and the tip related to this, is that as with WCAG 2, we say don't just jump into the standard. And the same thing with WCAG 3, don't just jump into the document. It's a standard. It's not an intro document. So, start out with if you're doing accessibility, start out with learning the basics first. And if you're wanting to learn about WCAG 3, start out with the introduction page. So we have a WCAG 3 introduction. And then from there, we have what's called an explainer in W3C terminology.
Right.
And
non-normative text.
Yeah, right. And read those first before jumping into WCAG 3 itself.
So it sounds to me like a lot. Is there anything else I should know in terms of preparing for this change?
Yeah, good question. You know, one of the things is to be aware of it's still a long way away. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, we're looking at years. Yeah.
We're looking at years. So that's a great question about what do I do now to prepare? And I think it just depends on what your role is. You know, what individual people's roles are. So you know, we actually would really like for some people to get really involved in understanding it, what the approach, and helping work through several of the sticky issues that we're working on. You know, some of the details, how we're going to handle the conformance model in WCAG 3, and things like that. So one thing is to very actively be involved in the group and in addressing the issues via GitHub or discussions or whatever. So that's one approach. Now, most people won't want to spend that much time on it. And so, you know, without going that deep, we invite people to read it, to review, and just do light comments. And then other than that, I think you can, you know, start to look at how the WCAG 3 is supporting that user-centered accessibility, even as a standard. But, you know, and see if there's things you can take out of it now, but definitely don't worry about the details yet. It's not going to impact, you know, requirements for some time. Yeah.
So this morning we've been already hearing a lot of buzz around AI. And, you know, I figure we're supposed to be talking about standards, but I want to get a moment to just sort of switch topics and just say, you know, what is W3C doing around AI and accessibility? Because obviously this is going to impact what we're doing in standards, especially in WCAG.
It is, yeah. We've been working and focusing on AI both at a high level at W3C. So in 2024, we published a team report on AI in the web and understanding and managing the impact. And that addressed ethics, privacy, data control, security, sustainability, some of those broad issues. And I think those are important to keep in mind even as we're talking about the specifics for accessibility. So we have that W3C wide. We have a few community groups, W3C community groups that are focusing on AI. And we have some more formal work coming, in that. And then one of the staff who's involved in accessibility is helping to lead that. So we've got, at the W3C wide stuff, we're also including, you know, thinking about the accessibility. And then specifically for accessibility, again, it's something that's been on our radar that we've been working on. And in 2023, we did an AI and accessibility research symposium. So that, and all the recordings are online, so anybody can go and get those now. The recordings are online with transcripts, and the keynote for that was Yuta Treviñanis, and yeah, you know, and the title of that keynote was "First, Do No Harm." So very useful, and she's written a lot about AI and accessibility. So we're really glad to have her involved in that. We also have a research questions task force, and they're working on a document that's specifically on the accessibility of machine learning and generative AI. And then we have, with WCAG 3, as you asked about WCAG 3 earlier, We're looking at what methods can be used to achieve the outcomes we need for the user needs, and one of those methods is AI. So we're looking at the, AI is what is the aspect there. And then also looking at AI roles with authoring tools. So a lot with AI, actually.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
So, it sounds to me like there's a lot going on at W3C. To me, I would think that it would be really helpful for the community to be helping you in some way and making all of this come together. So, how can we collaborate with the W3C on standard development, or anything else for that matter?
Sure. Yeah, we very much welcome it. Some people may not be aware that W3C has very few staff, and the work is done by the working groups. So the staff helps provide expertise in the topic and in the W3C process, but we rely on the community to contribute and help in developing those. So as I mentioned earlier, there's levels. You can be more actively engaged. You can, review drafts as they come out. Another thing that's needed for WCAG 3, and I was glad that when we talked earlier, you said something that reminded me, is research.
Right.
Yeah. So, we, with WCAG 3, we have defined research needs. So that's something we need. And then we also, several different things for WCAG 3. And then we also could use some support with funding. So we've historically had funding from the U.S. government, and are looking for other sources of funding. We have that, and as part of the new sponsorship package we have with W3C. So review, contribute, research, lots of opportunities.
Sounds like it. So, thank you very much, Shawn, for speaking with me today. I really appreciate it. Once again, my name is David Forney, and I've been speaking with Shawn Henry, Director of the Web Accessibility Initiative at the World Wide Web Consortium. Thank you again, Shawn.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you.